Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Just to let you know, we'll start the presentation in about 1 minute. Hello, once again, everyone. Just to let you know, we'll start the presentation in about 30 seconds. An official hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Safety and Health Magazine webcast. Break down, break, break down language barriers before they break your team. Sponsored by Babel for Business. This is Alan Ferguson, Associate Editor with Safety and Health and co-host of the On the Safe Side podcast, and I'll be moderating today's event. Thank you once again for joining us. And before we get started, there are a few housekeeping items. As a disclaimer, the views of today's speaker and organization are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the National Safety Council or Safety Health Magazine. Any mention of a commercial enterprise product or publication does not mean the council of the magazine endorses those items. After today's presentation, we'll conduct a question and answer session with our speaker. If you have a question, click the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, type your question, and press the send button. We welcome your questions at any time during today's event. You don't have to wait for the Q&A to begin. We might not get to every question, but the good news is unanswered questions will be forwarded to today's sponsor. Also, after this presentation, you'll be asked to complete a brief evaluation survey, and I'll tell you more about that a little bit later. Just to let you know, this webcast will be archived, so you can access it after today's live event. To view this webcast and all of our past webcasts, please visit safetyandhealthmagazine.com/events, or you may also receive a link in our post-event email. With that, let's introduce our speaker. With us today is Becky Gundy from Babel for Business. Becky is an avid believer in the power of effective communication and that language learning is a key component to business growth across the globe. She's passionate about the impact employers can have on individuals by offering upskilling programs that benefit them not only at work, but also in their daily lives. Based in New York City, Becky has 13 years of marketing experience in the tech industry, including 3 years working with employee-driven tech solutions such as Babel. On a personal note, she loves working for mission-driven organizations and leveraging her skills to drive impactful change. Again, we thank you all for tuning in this presentation. Becky, whenever you're ready, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much, Alan. I appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. I'm very excited to be speaking with you today and talking about breaking down language barriers before they break your team. I've already been introduced by Alan, so thank you so much for that. So let's jump right in. This was also mentioned in my bio, so clearly it is something I'm passionate about, but something I truly believe in is that good communication is the foundation of every high-functioning organization. But something that we all need to be aware of and focused on is that communication is happening in many different languages. Just in the US alone, there are about 350 different languages being spoken. There are thousands of languages being spoken across the globe, but in just our country, there are 350 different languages being spoken on a day-to-day basis. So I want to do a quick check-in here. We're going to launch a poll question. We would love to know how many languages are spoken in your workplace based on what you've observed, any data or stats that only one, that everyone speaks the same, 2 to 3, 4 to 5, or 6 plus. We've received all answers before, so really excited to see what all of you are experiencing. So we can kind of anchor ourselves to what everybody's environment is like. So we'll give you a little more time to put in some answers here and then see the results. Ooh, all right, here are our results. So pretty split. Honestly, it looks like we have a pretty broad range here of different responses. Some that are only 1, some that are 2 to 3, some that are 4 to 5, and quite a few that are also 6 plus. About 20% of you answered 6 plus. So that's really interesting. And I think this presentation will be relevant to everyone, no matter what you responded. So thank you for that. So, just to continue on down this path, there are 68 million people in the United States that speak a language other than English at home. So, 68 million is about 1/5 of the US population. So, that's a pretty big group of the population that are speaking a language other than English at home. No surprise to anyone, probably, is that Spanish is the second most spoken language in the US, with about 13% of the population speaking it at home. And this is one of my favorite stats that we work with all the time is by 2050, the US will have more Spanish speakers than any other country in the world. So right now, Mexico owns that honor of having the most Spanish speakers of any country in the world. But within 25 years, within, I would assume, most of our lifetimes, the US will eclipse that and have more Spanish speakers in the United States. And that is assuming that 1 in 3 people in the US will be speaking Spanish. And that, you can be a native speaker or a native English speaker and become bilingual in Spanish, but about a third of the population will be speaking Spanish in about 25 years. So I think that really anchors us to this is a current situation that's happening. This is not a future state situation. This is very much things evolving every day right now, and businesses need to be looking at this and understanding that their workforce is changing and evolving and looking at ways to offer proper solutions to everybody based on that knowledge. So let's quickly talk about some economic impact, the positive economic impacts of non-native English speakers in the workforce. So cultural and linguistic diversity, what we know based on data and anecdotal feedback is that diversity in the workplace leads to creativity, innovation, and just a broader range of perspectives. If you think about, having multiple viewpoints, having multiple lived experiences, you're going to get more enriched conversations and be able to brainstorm and be more creative. So a lot of value add there. And then the labor force growth. So sustaining economic productivity that the labor force provides to the U.S. There is a large concentration of non-native English speakers in the labor force, and that keeps our country going, keeps things going forward. So that's a huge impact there. And then also workforce development. So investing in employees and offering diversity programs and equal opportunity for employees leads to business performance, improved business performance, and increased innovation. And so we talked about, things happening within the United States, within our kind of borders. And the other thing that's happening is that US businesses are also expanding and growing globally. And maybe the first thing we think of is outsourcing or, moving certain operations into other countries. As a cost saving measure, but we also know that there's so much more upside to growing internationally, expanding globally than just cost savings. Obviously, accessing new markets, new customers for businesses is really valuable. Diverse talent pools. There are all sorts of different skill sets and experiences that are really, really valuable to businesses by moving into different parts of the world and accessing those different talent pools. And then, of course, you're going to hear this a lot, but fostering innovation, just diverse viewpoints and experiences just really improves innovation. So another really great one there. And, 35% culturally diverse teams being 35% more likely to see above average financial performance. I would say, I think we can all agree that business leaders really care about the financial performance. That's something that's top of mind always. So being able to draw that back to how you can, improve financial performance by having a diverse workforce is a really interesting thing. So not only is there financial performance as an upside, but there are so many different benefits of a multicultural workforce. So we talked about creativity and innovation, access to specialized skills in different parts of the world, broader market reach, increased employee productivity and engagement and satisfaction, and then greater business adaptability. I think having a diversified, portfolio of employees and operations allows for adaptability if there are struggles in one particular area or economic environments that are happening. It allows that business to move past those situations and anchor themselves elsewhere, which is helpful. And we can't access and tap into all of those different benefits that you get from a multicultural or diverse workforce without language. Language is that bridge between the diverse teams and the key to effective communication. And again, to really double down on this, the demand for bilingual workers more than doubled from 2010 to 2015. And that was 10 years ago. So, that number is assumedly the same or even higher these days as the demand continues to grow. Businesses become even more diverse and are growing more internationally. So that demand for bilingual employers as a skill, as something to put on the resume, is becoming even more important and more valuable. So we talked about why or that effective communication is important, but let's dig into the why effective communication and the ways that it impacts business. So of course, collaboration, the way that we all work together on a day-to-day basis, project management, being able to manage everything that's ongoing from the business, relationship building, both internally between employees and also externally with customers. A shared understanding of tasks, goals, and expectations. Businesses just operate more smoothly when everyone has an understanding of the goals that the business and their teams are working towards. And then, of course, very importantly, workplace safety is a great outcome. So, wanted to do another check-in here. We're going to launch another poll. How many of you have ever witnessed or experienced a language barrier in the workplace among your colleagues, something you may have experienced yourself? We've given, again, multiple choice options here of never, once, more than once, or several times. This happens all the time. So really interested to see, based on what you answered for how many languages are spoken in your workforce, how often you're experiencing or witnessing those language barriers. So we'll give you another few seconds here to reply and see where we are. All right, get our answers here. Wow. 70% of you said several times. So very often you are experiencing or witnessing these language barriers, which I think is truly on par with what I would expect given your answers on how many languages are spoken in your workplace. That's really interesting to see, but also not unpredictable. And we'll kind of talk through why. So you have all witnessed language barriers in the workplace, but there are multiple ways that we can witness that. So obviously language, audibly we can hear when people are speaking different languages. So that's pretty easy to pick up on. But also nonverbal communication. We all talk with our hands all the time when we're communicating or using hand signals to make a point or to accentuate a point. And not all hand symbols or nonverbal communications are equal or understood the same way in different cultures and different backgrounds. So something may be not understood or may even be offensive in another culture when we're using nonverbal communication. So we can also witness those as well. And then you're also able to witness assumptions and stereotypes that are being made amongst employees. And, those assumptions or stereotypes that they may have about their colleagues' backgrounds or cultural, environments, things like that. And so those are things that are pretty easy to pick up on in a workplace as well. And those language barriers lead to a lot of issues. And we're going to pick through just a few of them here, but obviously communication challenges, not being able to effectively communicate with each other, discrimination, stereotyping, and a lack of inclusivity, limited career development opportunities. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later too, but I think really importantly, problems with both physical and psychological safety in the workplace. So I want to dig into those for a second. First, the physical consequences. Um, these are really, this list is short, but these are really, really important and impactful downsides of the physical consequences of not being safe in the workplace. So injuries, death, and even personal medical or insurance costs going up and impacting someone's life. I think these ones are all very clear, and I'm sure everyone has experienced it. And then the psychological consequences. We don't talk about these as often, and I think we're getting better at it, but we could always continue to do better. But decreased mental health and wellness, a lack of motivation, feeling disconnected from the company, from colleagues, from the culture, fear of job security, not being able to understand or communicate can, make anyone fear for their job. And then just fear for general safety. If you put all these things together and put yourselves in the shoes of someone who might be experiencing these things on a day-to-day basis, you are not going to be a very productive worker because that's a really not a great place to be mentally dealing with all of these things. But there are things we can do to improve and offer support. And then we can't ignore the impact to the business itself. So having unmotivated or unproductive employees leads to, issues with productivity for the business. Those OSHA fines are no joke. They grow exponentially each time there's an incident. So that can really impact the business. Insurance costs also apply to businesses. Those costs can go up. And that decreased productivity from a business aspect can be truly felt for the future of the business. And then there can also be damage to a workplace, a community, property, and in the environment around the business, and also high employee turnover, which again, I think everybody understands the challenges with that, not just for, the HR team and businesses, at large, but team productivity and team morale as well. So this is directly from the source, from OSHA. OSHA cites that language barriers are a contributing factor in 25% of workplace incidents. So 1/4 of workplace incidents involve some sort of language barrier. So in that vein, another poll question here that we're going to launch. This is a question. So lob a guess. We have 4 options for you. How much do US businesses lose each year due to language misunderstandings? 25 million, 500 million, 1 billion, or 2 billion. So regardless of the answer, these are all a lot of money. So off the bat, we know that this has a big impact on US businesses, but curious what everyone's guesses would be here. So again, we'll give you a couple more seconds to put in your guesses. All right, here it comes. Oh, split. All good guesses. It looks like 1 billion got the most guesses, 38%. So let's see what the answer is. $2 billion, billion with a B. This was one of those that when I discovered this stat, I was blown away and really sent it home for me how important the work we're doing is, not just for individuals, but also for businesses all over the globe. And so this is a lot. This is a lot of impact to businesses. So nothing we can, turn our eyes away from. So to really kind of bring us back home and where we started, we understand based on everything we just talked about that effective communication creates strong teams, a safer work environment, healthy company culture, and optimized business results. So this is kind of a rhetorical question just to plant a seed in all of your minds, but do you believe that your employees and your business has the support that they need to be successful and to be safe? And now a real question that I would actually love for everyone to engage in the chat. The chat is open. I would love to hear from you. What programs does your organization offer to employees that sets them up for success? So feel free to drop in anything that you are proud that your organization offers, anything that you've experienced at your organization. And I don't know if anyone has dropped anything in. I am not seeing anything in the chat. I don't know if Alan, you're able to see anything.
Looks like there's some responses coming in now.
Oh, there they are. Great. Oh, nothing. Great. Yeah. Okay. Few translated things. Yeah. Our training department offers English courses. We offer all training and documents in hundreds of languages. That's incredibly impressive and really important. That's awesome. Great. Thank you so much for contributing those. We'll dive in now on what can you do? We have some ideas for you. And you've mentioned several of them already, which is great. So how can you set your workforce up for success? So I saw a lot of this in the chat. Language support resources. So translation services, multilingual materials, those training materials being in hundreds of languages is, again, so impressive and so essential. And then, of course, access to interpretation services. We're, of course, going to get to language learning in a second, but interpretation services are also extremely valuable to have at the hands of your employees. And then the other thing is inclusive career development, making sure that if, the HR team or any team within the organization is offering career development opportunities, that they are in workers' native languages. And, just as important as having the training materials and onboarding materials in multiple languages, offering live workshops, in another native language that you have a high population in your organization is also really, really important to make sure that people have equal opportunity to getting a promotion if they're looking to become a people manager or be in a customer facing role. If that's something that is essential to get them to the next level, providing those equal opportunity environments is really great too. And then, of course, we are Babbel. So we believe language learning in the workplace is an extremely important offering. And I'm not going to go through these individually because we touched on all of them already, but there are so many benefits to offering language training in the workplace. And it goes back to that offering effective communication and giving employees the tools to communicate effectively and all the upside of those things. So I wanted to take a moment to talk to you about Babbel and the Babbel method and kind of how all this plays into what we do. So the Babbel method for us is basically the idea that learning a new language is not easy. And also every human being learns differently. We can, of course, put people into categories of the ways that they learn, but everybody learns differently and everybody has a different experience in when they are able to learn, how they are able to learn. So our theory is that flexibility and different learning environments are really important for success when it comes to learning a new language. So our Babbel app is great for flexibility. It's in your pocket. It's on a desktop. You can use it whenever, you have availability. So between shifts or at home, or if there's a dedicated time that the organization provides for taking language learning lessons, that flexibility from the app is great. And there's all sorts of resources within the app. But the other thing that we know is that live instruction is a really important element of language learning. So Babbel also offers live instruction. So it's our product called Babbel Live, and it's group classes of 6 or less people. And it's people that are learning in the same language at the same level. And it's a fully licensed instructor in that language and at that level. And I think the really important thing is that coursework is customizable. So depending on what industry your business is in or what type of employee that is, you can customize with the instructor specific phrases, specific grammar, specific vocabulary that's important to a specific role or a specific industry. So that's a really, really awesome flexible option there. And then the other part of our Babbel method is that it's really hard to do alone. So that's why we offer both customer success and learner success teams and support services. So we can handhold and provide as much support as each individual business needs to reach, success and get employees proficient in whatever language they are learning. And then we also offer our control panel, which is our admin view. So it's where you can see all the licenses, you can transfer licenses, but then we also offer data and analytics where you can see and pull reports on how quickly people are learning, what your engagement and utilization rates are over a period of time. You can see what language everyone is working in and how quickly they're progressing through the levels. So it just provides a lot of insight into being able to manage the program. And then we offer the support to manage what you are not able to manage because we understand how much work it is. But the other important element, and I kind of mentioned this before, is providing relevant content into language training. So there are lots of options out there for language learning apps, language learning services, but most of them are really focused on, grammar and daily life situations, which are very helpful and very valuable. But at Babbel, we believe that the relevant content is even more important in a workplace environment. So we offer, for example, safety-specific lessons in these industries. So we offer specific coursework that, based on data and research in our customers, we understand that people are in these scenarios, and these are phrases and words and questions and answers that they may encounter in their day-to-day workplace. And so increasing that proficiency in language that they can use in their day-to-day work, day-to-day tasks, and communicating better with their colleagues. So something that we're really proud that we offer. And we're also constantly building this out, continuing to add new industries and things like that. So just to wrap us up here, we at Babbel are really, we pride ourselves in helping organizations overcome language barriers, support safety and productivity in the workplace, and then foster better understanding between employees and employers. So I will stop there for questions.
Well, thank you so much, Becky, for sharing your insights with us. Before we start the Q&A, we want to remind everyone of the evaluation survey we're asking you to complete. The survey will open in a different screen after this webinar. Your input is important because it does help us improve our future webcast. And as a reminder to our attendees, if you'd like to ask a question, feel free to click the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And then once again, if we don't get to your question, all unanswered questions will be forwarded along to our speaker. Uh, Now let's get to our first question. Which employees or departments are typically managing workplace language training programs?
Yeah, so it varies across different industries. We see HR departments, we see learning and development departments, we see training and development departments. And then we also have a lot of customers where the people that come to us are safety leaders. Their specific job is employee safety. So I think really it's whoever is noticing that there's something that needs to be supported internally and wanting to support that and implement programs. But again, across different industries and sizes of businesses, it really varies. But really, we want to work with the people that are passionate about helping their employees and providing them opportunities for advancement.
Our next question, what's the difference between translations and/or translation services versus language learning?
Yeah, we get this question all the time, and there is often confusion about what actually Babbel offers, and people come to us a lot asking if we do translations, and unfortunately we don't. But our view is that those things go hand in hand. So none of these solutions, in a silo or in isolation are enough. They should all work together. So I'm so happy to see all of the responses in the chat of all of the good work that your companies are doing regarding translating materials and providing trainings and things like that in different languages. But really, it starts with translation and interpretation because those are quick things. Those are things that you can have. They're not instantaneous, but they are shorter than individuals learning a language. So I think starting with offering translated materials and offering access to translation services while also giving employees access to increase their proficiency in language learning, the ultimate way to solve the issues is for people to be communicating in the same language. So kind of the long-term goal and the long-term play is giving people access to learn languages so that they can communicate in the same language.
So, next question, as a manager, what communication challenges can I look out for on our job sites?
Oh, that's such a good question. And I feel partly unqualified to answer that question, as I've, not been a manager on a job site. But I think it really is just being aware, keeping your eyes open and making a concerted effort to watch how your employees are communicating with each other. And we also have some great case studies. Thinking specifically, we have a case study that's on our website of Pet Supplies Plus, where we had you know, a manager in a, manufacturing or distribution environment who, noticed that there were these issues between his employees, and he decided to go out and find a solution and, chose Babbel and had his supervisor team learning Spanish, and then had his non-native English, Spanish-speaking employees learning English at the same time. And then they would practice with each other, kind of take 5 minutes out of the day and practice some phrases on each other. So I think, taking a poll visually, audibly with your employees and seeing what you can witness, but then also asking, offering the space for people to give you that feedback and let you know if they are encountering issues, if they are feeling, unsafe, or that they don't understand or have equal opportunity to do what they need to do on the job site. So I think just asking the question is a really good sign. It shows that you care. And I think communicating that care to your employees and giving them the opportunity to give you that feedback is really valuable too.
Before we start our next question, would you advance the next slide so you share the QR code? Oh, there you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So our next question, where do I start if I'm considering a language learning program?
Yeah, there are so many resources out there. There's so much good content, but if you don't have time to read through content, you can always reach out to us. I don't mean that as a sales pitch. I think it's our jobs to be experts on language training programs. We are actually about to release an ebook next month that is about the science of adult language learning and what is happening inside the brain as human adults are learning languages. But then we also have a section in that ebook that is what you should be considering, as you're looking at a language training program. What should you prioritize, and what are the things that you need? So again, from our perspective, you need a whole bunch of things to offer, a successful tool to your employees. An app, the live classes, and then support from your partner if it were a Babbel. So I think, seeking out content, and then, reaching out to businesses that claim to be experts, and asking for advice and just having a conversation. But there's a lot of great stuff out there that is accessible if you don't want to have a live conversation with someone. But we are always ready to talk and consult and give you advice.
Our next question. Typically, are employees using their own time or company time for language training?
It's a really good question, and it really varies. We have customers across so many different industries, from, construction, manufacturing, agriculture, landscaping, and then through, tech companies, corporate environments, consulting companies. And it really is dependent on what work these employees that are wanting to learn a language are doing, because there are different levels of flexibility. So we've seen some companies that we work with that carve off company time or department time on everybody's calendars to say, this is your moment to take, your Babbel lesson. And also, by the way, we recommend that it's 5 to 10 minutes a couple times a week versus, trying to hold yourself to an hour a day. Of course, you would progress faster, but who among us has an hour a day to commit to that? So we offer hopefully much more flexible advice. But yeah, other times, on a job site or a floor, you may not be able to carve out time during a shift. Employees may not be able to have their phone on them during their working time. So sometimes it is more difficult, and employers have to work with their employees to figure out, can they spend 5 to 10 minutes a couple times a week at home, or getting to work 5 to 10 minutes early and quickly pulling up a lesson on your app. So again, that's something that we can be a resource for, using our own customers as examples and sharing what they are doing. But yeah, it really depends on what the workforce environment is.
Uh, so next question, what's the key to success for a language learning program?
I would say commitment, having the organization committed to the program, and then also leveraging resources. So again, I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Babbel that we offer both customer support and learner support. And I think taking advantage of those resources, because most of the time the admins that we work with, are wearing several different hats. They have so many different projects that are on their plates. So it's unreasonable to expect, an admin to have a full playbook on implementing a language training program and making it successful. So that is what we are here for. And I think, one of the most strategic things you can do is leverage your partners, and the offerings that businesses like Babbel have to offer that extra support. And, specifically from our learner success team, they are a team dedicated to creating engaging programs for learners to keep them excited, to make them competitive about it. We have some customers that will put a leaderboard up on the wall in, the factory or in the office that say, these 5 people have, spent the most minutes learning in Babbel this week. And that competitive drive helps to keep people engaged. And then we also will create bingo boards, or some sort of engaging thing around Christmas or around St. Patrick's Day or anything like that. It totally, we customize it based on what your business needs and what you are focused on. So I think, yeah, commitment to making it work, and spending, as much time as you have to commit to it, but then leveraging the resources.
Our next question, how can I encourage feedback from my workers regarding any language barriers they're experiencing?
Yeah, I think there are lots of ways to do it. I think if it's something that's comfortable to do live, and again, I think knowing what type of business you're in and what your work environment is. I may offer different suggestions, but if there's a huddle that you could bring people together in, or if you have a regular, company meeting, or there's a moment when people are already gathered and you can take that time to solicit feedback. I feel like most of our customers will do a survey of any kind. So it can be a Google form, you can work with some sort of external survey service, but I think providing anonymity is sometimes helpful too. So if there's a tool that allows people to respond openly and honestly without fear of, how their responses may be perceived, we find that tends to work really well. But also I think it's good when people are, they do put ownership on their responses and say, I need help, or I have a colleague that I think needs help or more support. And being an advocate for themselves or for their colleagues is really powerful too. So I think surveying in some form or another is really valuable, and then kind of up to you what you think will elicit the best responses, whether it's anonymous or not.
I'm going to ask you about your final thoughts, but first, if any of our attendees would like to drop their thoughts or experience in the chat, feel free to do so. Yeah, as we wrap up here, any final thoughts?
I really appreciated the engagement that we had in the chat here and the questions. Thank you so much for those. I think the fact that you're showing up to this webinar and wanting to learn about this topic, and it shows a commitment to your employees and to improving the experience for everyone. And I think that is the most powerful thing you can be doing is caring and showing up. So you've all taken the right first step, and yeah, please let me know how I can be a resource to you. Reach out to me directly. Reach out to Babbel. We're here for you. So thank you so much for being here today.
Well said. Yeah, thank you so much. This ends today's Safety and Health Magazine webcast. We'd like to thank Becky Gundy, the entire team from our sponsor, Babbel for Business, and of course, all of you who joined us today. Take care and have a safe day.